Well, good morning, everyone. And once again, welcome to another live this morning. Hope you're having a great day. And as usual, we'll wait for a few folks to come on so I can say hello. Ruby, good morning. Nice to have you on with us this morning. Okay. Angela, good morning. Mike from Norland. Rosalinda, Niagara Falls. Nativity, good morning. Bev, how are you? Kevin, Oshawa, good morning, Kev. I guess it's sunny in Oshawa, not here in Sudbury. Rosa, Erica, good morning. Ann, Jen, Cape Breton, Carrie, Nebraska, Linda, Andrea, Niagara Falls, Wendy, Markham, Ashley, Marcy, good morning, Mary, Kathy, and Rita, good morning, Patricia from Calgary, and another Maria, Luella, good morning to you. Georgie, Halifax, Nova Scotia, Mary, and David. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And Gary, good morning from Bolton, rainy Bolton. And good morning, Elsie. Wendy from Aylmer. Karen, Muskoka. Jocelyn. And Cease, how are you? The Netherlands. Len and Judy, Edmonton, bright and early. Sherry, Rita, good morning. Thea, Fran from Orangeville. Yeah, we're getting that. It looks like a rainy day here. Jenny, Barbara, Atlanta, Georgia. Vera from Newfoundland, good morning. Evelyn, couple more guys. Linda, St. Jude, Quebec. Chantal from Sudbury. Roma and Sandy, Washington State. Kim, good morning. Milika, good morning. Alma, much appreciated. Deb from Timmins. And Diane from Thunder Bay. Bruno, good to have you on. Brahim, I was waiting for you. Portland, Oregon. Elsie, Donna, and Alicia. We appreciate you guys very, very much. And Alicia was saying she didn't get her notification. Yeah, well, I don't know what to do about that. Jane, Yolande, Zian from North Bay, Carol Ann. We appreciate it. Claire, Pierre and Claire are watching. Deb, good morning from Detroit, Michigan. Motown, Alma. Angel, good morning. And Ken, we appreciate you guys. Okay, a couple of stories I want to talk about. Well, this one's on sleep, so I'm just going to spend a few minutes on it. But it's as you guys, well, if you don't know this, I'm writing a new book right now, Sun, Steak, and Steel. Of course, I'm using another S, sleep. Not going to be in the original title, but I'm going down on some S's, and I'm talking about sun, steak, and steel, and salt will be in the book. Sleep is going to be in the book. And, but this new study on sleep, saw it yesterday or the day before, and it's interesting because it's even on just one night of bad sleep. One night. And one night of bad sleep affects your immune system, decreases the activity of T cells. Now, T cells, as a reminder, are your Navy SEALs of your immune system. They're supercharged by vitamin D, Viderma. They're supercharged. They have battery packs. They have antennas for vitamin D. But what slows them down is sugar. I've talked to you about that in the past. It'll put a T cell to sleep. It's like you're in the hot sun and you need a siesta. So when you eat sugar, you put your immune system to sleep. And this study is showing that when you don't sleep, even in one night, your T cells are not near as effective. And I remember this is a study done, it's got to be 25, 30 years ago, at least that long ago, because I used to talk about it on my radio show all the time. If you lost a night's sleep, let's say you're traveling, and this is where they were showing it, you were something like 60, 70% more susceptible to getting a cold within a few days. Well, it wasn't because you got exposed to a virus. You're always exposed to a virus. It was because your immune system went down. Missing a night of sleep. And this one is saying one bad night of sleep affects your immune system, damages your brain. 3 things, okay, that this study has said. Affects your immune system, okay, we know that. 2, it damages the brain. I'll tell you why. They didn't say why, but I'm going to tell you why. Have you got a self-cleaning oven at home? You do? Okay. Well, you know how that works? It cleans itself, right? Now, you might have to push a button, but when you go to sleep at night, your brain cleans itself of debris. Why would there be a lot of debris in the brain? Well, because the brain is like a manufacturing plant. Whatever you eat, it needs to produce energy. And, if you produce energy, there's debris. But your brain has its own self-cleaning oven. But it only works when you sleep. So do you think sleep's important? Absolutely. And, thinking about sleep, it's 70, 80% of the population never get in. Never get in to the 4 stages of sleep. They just don't go into it. And guys, this is, I hate to use the word an epidemic, but it really is an epidemic, a lack of sleep. Now, I just wanted to read to you, and then we'll talk about this for a minute. The link, okay, this is a headline from another study. This will be in my new book. The link between a lack of sleep and cancer. Headline. The link between a lack of sleep and cancer. And again, for the reasons that I'm giving you. Your immune system goes down. Your immune system is there for your body protection, not only against viruses, bacteria, but also cancer. Your immune system. Well, it's decreased if you don't sleep. But listen to this headline. the link between a lack of sleep and cancer, and this comes from the World Health Organization. The World Health Organization says any form of nighttime shift work is carcinogenic. What? World Health Organization. Let me repeat. Any form of nighttime shift work is carcinogenic. Now, a lot of people work night shift. But you see, your body was meant to follow a circadian rhythm type of thing. Okay? You follow the sun. Sun comes up, you're up. Sun goes down, you're settling down. Right? That's the way it's supposed to be. It's the way your body is built. When you come out of that, and listen, people that work shift work, I mean, hospitals, cleaning staff, people that work all sorts of jobs, truck drivers, work at night. I mean, they work during the day too, but they drive. But what the World Health Organization is saying is that is a form of, they're almost saying like if you work shift work, it's like you're smoking without smoking. It's carcinogenic. I didn't say that. The World Health Organization said it. And we got 70-80% of the population that don't sleep. They don't sleep properly. Now, there's reasons for it. One of the biggest things that I talk about all the time is stress. People today, and guys, I wrote about this in the 80s. Headline, in the 1980s, we live in a different world. Because what I was seeing back then was chronic fatigue syndrome. Women, rarely in a man. 90-something% women, 95, just about. And me, and the way my brain operates, if something is new, something is picking up steam, the question I always ask is, why? Why is that happening? But even in the 80s, it almost seemed like the world was speeding up. And, for women who, first of all, unfortunately, but I say this as a blanket statement, women often are misunderstood. Medicine is the worst at it. Medicine is a man's world. It's not a woman's world. Even today, where I believe, at least in Canada, they are graduating much more women doctors than men. You would think there would be a huge paradigm shift in the thinking in medicine because women doctors, but that's not happening. They're so ingrained not to take hormones, or what I call hormones, into account. You can hardly talk to a physician, and I hate to be negative, but this is a fact. You can hardly talk to a physician about cortisol. They look at you like you got two heads. Yeah, but everybody's stressed, so they don't look at it, but it's a big thing because cortisol, the uptight vitamin, hormone, cortisol, that hormone robs the body of progesterone in women. It can create an estrogen dominance. And an estrogen dominance can create the thyroid to go into a tizzy. Someone yesterday on our private Facebook group was going, I don't understand. I'm confused when it comes to the thyroid. And you know what? Sometimes I get it, you know. Well, doc, you know, what's normal numbers? Well, I'm not big into numbers. I sort of got a secret sauce that I have been doing for years with the TSH. I've learned to read it properly. Yeah, you know, if you want to send me your T4s and T3s, I don't dismiss those things. I don't. But I got a sort of secret sauce that I looked at for years. And it's not 100%, but it's about 99 point something. And I know when the thyroid is off. It's not functioning at a high level. But if you don't understand all the strings that are attached to that, people just, you know what? I'm a thyroid doctor. Well, good for you. Hope you understand there's a lot of strings attached to that thyroid gland. And low energy. And weight gain. Or weight loss. Mostly weight gain in women. And, you know, you don't rely on the lab. The lab is hijacked medicine. It did. The lab is wonderful. But you better not just rely on lab results. Symptoms. And here's a pile of women. Millions and millions of women that are walking around. They got no energy. Their hair is thinning out. Their eyebrows are thinning out. Their nails are brittle. Their skin isn't what it should be. And women know their bodies. Women know their hair. Women know what they're feeling. But medicine draws a blank. Why? Because they rely on a blood test. And the normal ranges are from here to eternity. And women fall through the cracks. Why do you think I was so busy? You know, I venture to say my practice was 80% women. You know, I'd have to ask Jeanette and Nicole and Brandy, and I think I'm pretty right when I say that. And you know what a lot of times I heard in the office on a daily basis? Why didn't my doctor tell me this? Why didn't my doctor check my cortisol? Well, you'd almost have to take a physician, even a woman physician. Bring them to a dentist and drill their teeth without anesthetic to get them to do certain tests. They just don't do it because they take the regular test, and if they don't see anything flagged, then you know, they just, no, your thyroid's all right. Thousands of times I heard that. And getting back to one of the things that is so important is sleep. If your cortisol is high, okay, now remember, what is cortisol? That's cortisol. Somebody sent me something the other day on, I saw it on the Facebook group. You know, they sort of blacked out. And they were asking a question, and I was thinking outside the box for this, but they had already gone to make sure they didn't have a stroke or whatever, blah, 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 blah. When it is, folks, when it's weird and a doctor is scratching their head as to why that kind of, you know, funny things happen, why did that happen to me? I usually look at something that they don't think of, and that is cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone, and that's all right. I come behind you and scare you. I scare you with my loud voice. Okay. You're going to secrete some cortisol, but that's all right. It's going to be temporary. As soon as I lower my voice, I won't scare you anymore. Okay? Cortisol. It's normal until it's not. It's not normal to go on and on and on. Your cortisol is high. It should be like this. At the end of the day, sinking like the Titanic, sinking as the sun is setting. Your cortisol is going down because it follows a circadian rhythm when it's in good shape. Your body is starting to shut yourself down. But if your cortisol is high, you won't sleep. You won't get into the recuperative REM sleep. And when you don't sleep, your cortisol gets higher. Yikes. This, my friend, was one of my biggest discoveries in chronic fatigue syndrome. It was one of my biggest discoveries. The adrenal gland. And nobody was talking about it. Oh, it's the yuppie flu, and you wouldn't believe. The Epstein-Barr virus. Well, it couldn't be, because the Epstein-Barr virus was only present in about 50% of the diagnoses of chronic fatigue syndrome. It may have been a factor, but it wasn't a cause. This was adrenal exhaustion, my friend. And, chronic fatigue syndrome was fatigue, fibromyalgia, which is, to me, I've always said this, and I wrote about it in several books, that chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia were the same disorder. They come from the same thing. It was a two-headed corn. Did I say corn or coin? Coin. Fibromyalgia. Everybody scratches their head. What is that? Why? Why did we never see it before? Why wasn't it in my medical books in the 1970s and then became like an epidemic? Rheumatologists became extremely popular because of fibromyalgia. I said, well, that's cortisol at the end of the day. I mean, here's what else I found. Leaky gut. Yeah. Sluggish. Wow. Thyroid. Way out of whack, but not blood-wise. Not blood test-wise. But they were looking for love in all the wrong places in the lab. So this sleep study, imagine what I'm saying here. The World Health Organization is saying that if someone is working night shift, it's a carcinogenic. Woo. Cancer rate. And by the way, 50% increase. This is back, in the early 90s that this came out. A 50% increase in cancer rates amongst women that were diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome. 50% increase. Cancer is crazy already. It went from 1 out of 20 breast cancer when I graduated in the 70s to 1 out of 6 or 1 out of 7 today. Ooh, it makes me angry because we're not winning the war on cancer. We're losing the war on cancer. It's been a colossal failure. Colossal. Because we've been focused in on, the world has been focused in on treatment of cancer. And it better be pharmaceutical. Somebody's got to make big money in it. And nobody talks about prevention. I mean, the only prevention they ever talked about, and I was in agreement with this, is stop smoking. Okay, I get, yeah, it's good idea. Good idea. But nobody ever told you to stop sugar. They tell you to get out of the sun when they should have been telling you to get into the sun for cancer. Ooh. I know, I'm working up a sweat. I get upset. But you can understand, for me, who is seeing thousands of patients a year, and especially women, their hormones were so out of whack. And a lot of it was cortisol. Cortisol is an accelerator. It pours gasoline on inflammation. And that affects the brain too. That affects your sleep too. And, again, I hate to be negative. But if you're taking a sleeping pill, you're sedating yourself. It's the same thing if somebody punches you in the head and knocks you out. Well, at least I'm knocked out. I'm sleeping. Yeah, but number one, you're never repairing that brain. Never. When you are sedated. Your glymphatic, your self-cleaning oven doesn't work if you're sedated. And so, think how significant that is. A study on one night's lack of sleep. One night. Holy moly. I don't think there's any of us, that ever gone where you haven't had a bad night. Okay. If you're getting up early for a flight or you're troubled or whatever, come on, it happens to all of us. But damage is done. Now, the nice thing is, okay, and the study don't even talk about this, but here's a fact. You can repair. Your body is fearfully and wonderfully made. I don't know how many times I got to tell you that. That even if you're on the Titanic, even if you've been on a bad road and you've never slept properly, your body is unreal. Give it the tools to regenerate. It's unbelievable. And the things that I used to see too, in a lack of sleep. It wasn't melatonin per se, okay? Because people think, well, if I take melatonin, people think of sleep. It's amazing, how marketing works, right? Let's face it. We're all influenced by marketing. Because even if you talk to someone that knows very little about health, they know what melatonin is, almost invariably. If you did a survey, people go, yeah, melatonin, like in their mind, it's a supplement or a medication to sleep. But I always remind people, melatonin, Your body makes it. I'm not so big on supplement of melatonin. I really am not. Never have been. And, you know, people used to come to the office, well, I'm using melatonin. Okay, how's that working for you? Well, it used to work for me. Yeah, I know. Because, folks, look, if it works for you, good. I've got no problem with that. But there's a problem. The way your body makes melatonin is when it sees the sun. Your body makes it. But it makes it under certain conditions. When it sees the sun, when your eyeballs see the sun. Okay? Let your eyeballs get tanned. Okay? Now, don't look directly in the sun. But take your sunglasses off. 10 to 15 minutes in the morning. It's sunny. You're making melatonin. Yeah. You're making melatonin. And then, at night, turn off your devices. Pitch black room. Your body makes melatonin on its own. The sun, that's why you have a day at the beach or a day in the sun. Ordinarily, you're going to sleep better. Why? You're making melatonin. And then dark. Wear a mask if you got it. Don't wear a mask around your mouth. Wear a mask at night around your eyeballs. No light. Why? Because you're going to make more melatonin. That's just a fact. So I'm not so big on supplementing with melatonin. I like I said, I never have been. And I've always not, because in my practice, you know, like with chronic fatigue, like go back. 30 years. More. It had a melatonin, never, you know, like I know it's popular and people will do anything. You think I'm not sympathetic to people that don't sleep? But I'm an unpacker. I want to get to the root. I want to dig. Well, I don't need so much sleep. Well, there's some people that need less. But you know me and my sweet spots, right? I got sweet spots for everything. Okay? From drinking water to exercise to whatever. I love sweet spots. And those are my sweet spots based on experience, sleeping 7 to 8 hours a day, a night. 7 to 8 hours. It's the sweet spot of sleep. There's a lot of studies to confirm it, but it was my own practice. But you better get to the bottom line of it. Cortisol messes up hormones in women. A little in men too. Cortisol can affect a man's testosterone. I'm not into this gender thing. I'm sorry. You're a man or you're a woman. And men need testosterone. Your body's made for it. Ladies, never worry about testosterone. Because some women ask me, what's my testosterone levels? I don't care. You can't make me care. I care about how much estrogen and progesterone you're making. That's what I care about. And they better be balanced, or you're going to be out of wacko. And a man needs testosterone, but cortisol will rob a man of his testosterone. And men walk around and they got estrogen dominance. And the only way that can happen is when testosterone is sinking. And a lot of times, when I get to the bottom line of it, they're stressed. They're not sleeping. Stress today, like we live in a world, folks, it seems like planet Earth, correct me if I'm wrong, is spinning faster than ever. Right? We're more aware of everything. In a way, it's good, right? We have social media, we have 24-hour news cycles and news channels, and, we have information, but we are, there. You pay a price for that. You pay a price for that. Interesting, right? I mean, this should dominate headlines, but it doesn't. It doesn't. Doesn't get the ink it deserves. One night of sleep disrupts your immune system. Disrupts your self-cleaning oven in your brain. It disrupts it. And the World Health Organization, on the heels of this article or study, is coming out with, the World Health Organization says any form of nighttime shift work is carcinogenic. Well, holy moly. Holy moly. Now, guys, do you know what tomorrow is? Question and Answer Friday. Is that fun? Yeah, it's usually lots of fun. And we invite you to invite your friends, invite your family. You guys are out there, really sharing the message. We appreciate that. I know, you don't have to tell me, but I know I am controversial. And people oftentimes don't hear the other side of things. They're so indoctrinated and by the mainstream media and whatever, that they never hear these things from the mainstream. So we appreciate it when you guys share this. You can't make people do anything. You can't. But you can certainly introduce them to some information and they can make up their own minds. God gave people gray matter between their ears and they ought to be able to use it. So tell them about the Doctors In podcast. And get them to join our live Facebook on a daily basis. And share it. Okay, enough advertising. Okay, guys, we love you dearly. We'll talk to you soon.